So I wanted to talk to you guys about something that happened yesterday. And it has to do with watching the death of something happening and what I learned from it, or what I'm trying to learn from it. So it was International Women's Day yesterday, and I was here on the island, and my daughter had gone up to see my mother up in the mountains, which is, it's only a half an hour drive once you get off the island, so it's really close. So I called her in the morning, and she was like, "Oh, Penelope's here, right, my daughter, and we're going to go up to Holomonda to have lunch, and come. Why don't you come?" And so I did. I drove up and picked them up, and we drove up this beautiful, beautiful road, this winding road through the mountains with all the trees, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. And we get finally to this area where there's the tavern, and across the road is a little church, and the view reaching down towards the sea. And we sit down, the three of us, and next to us is a group of a couple tables of men, late 40s, early 50s, on up, and until 70s or something like that. And they were drinking their ritsina and nibbling on appetizers. And we sat down, we ordered our food, and we're talking, and suddenly, out of nowhere, there's singing. And we turn to look at the group of men. They were sitting behind me. We turned to look and to listen. The owner of the Taverna, the son of the original owner that I had first met when I was 8 years old, 50 years ago, I guess was the first time that I went to this place. And he was just singing joyfully, standing in front of the table and just letting himself go. And another man gets up, stands next to him, and they grasp arms, and they're arms up, and they're singing this song. And the rest of the table, and all of us in there, were enjoying it. And I looked at my daughter and I said, "Take this in. This is part of the culture that is dying out." And she said, "Yeah," she says, "this never happens when I go out with my friends here in Greece. Everything is, what do I look like? Am I okay? Am I acceptable? Am I cool enough? Is it, it's typical culture, right? We had that in the States when I was growing up. But this is a group of people, some of them uneducated, some of them uninterested, in fact, most of them, in how they looked, and if they were impressing anybody. The owner of this wonderful taverna has this, huge white mustache and his white hair, and he's a big, robust kind of guy. And he's just singing singing unashamedly with joy and with that gusto, that aliveness, that on fire, just singing. And it was an old localized type of music, the kind that you would hear with a clarinet, right, or the violin, fiddle type violin, not like classical violin music, right? And it was theirs, and I slipped right into it because it had been so long since I had been in a taverna and people breaking out in song. It's the older generations that do that, and the older generations are dying out. The younger generations will watch it in movies or remember stories that their grandparents told them about times like this. But here's where the mourning comes in. I know, because I have lived it, that these moments when people break out in song in the middle of a restaurant somewhere and everybody else enjoys it and joins in, and nobody gets upset because this table over here is interrupting their private space, right? It's like everybody becomes a community. Everybody is welcome, no matter who you are, no matter what level of the hierarchy you're in. You become one with everybody. That's dying out. I mean, you don't see that anymore today. So the mourning, it's something that I'm sad about, the change, the death of these people, that when my generation dies out, what will be left behind? Will this connection be available to them in authentic ways? This online thing can be authentic, but even so, I'm feeling pretty authentic about what I'm talking about, but I'm not talking to anybody right now. I know this is going out to people, to you who are going to listen to it, but it's inauthentic because it's not immediate, it's not connected. There's an incredible lack of human, what's the word, you guys? That human, I want to say connection again. That direct human connection, which we're all missing in today's world. It's dying out. So when you go out to a restaurant, everybody's on their table, in their little group, and everything's becoming more isolated, which is fine. It's needed, of course. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if a little kid comes running up to your table, and or kids are running around in the tavern, people get mad now. And if kids were running around in the tavern back in my day when we were hanging out with our friends, you would talk to the kids. You would invite them to hang out underneath the table and play. I mean, it was a communal thing. There was no fear that somebody was going to grab your kid or poison him or her. And I just wonder what's happening to the world. And I am mourning yesterday because, thankfully my daughters got to see some of it, but it's not like they really lived it. It's, Instagram posts and meeting people depending on your inauthentic self. These guys in the tavern yesterday, they're missing teeth. They were dressed like, whatever, who cares? And it had nothing to do with how do I look? It had nothing to do with any of that. It was authentically, this is who I am. I feel joyful. Let's sing. I miss those times.